My name is Teresa Hopley and I'm the Head of Talent Leadership and Organisational Development Consultancy. I manage a small team and we look after all those different aspects of talent, leadership development, team working, team building. We look after 2 organisations in Greater Manchester, so that's Stockport NHS Foundation Trust as well as Tameside and Glossop ICFT. I guess in this new role, helping people to develop and grow is really satisfying. So when you facilitate a session or you've done some interaction, some intervention in OD, that you can see people have light bulb moments and then something clicks for them in the session and they go away and they change the behaviour or they try to adapt the behaviour and try different things just in order to build better rapport with others for influencing. So seeing those moments are really good for me. That I'm working for the NHS, there's lots of opportunities to do that for both clinicians, I guess, as well as non-clinical staff. So we've got a whole gambit of staff that we can help influence. I guess training and development always gets, the poor relations. If finances are tight, it always gets pulled. But it's really, really important because if we can help people do their job, carry out their role, being able to influence others, get results out of others quicker, faster, then naturally we are saving time in the NHS so we can deal with those pressures. So in a way, it's a bit of a no-brainer for me that we can help people unlock their potentials and also make their job a much easier rather than, harder, a struggle. I guess the current pressures at the moment, it's a lot about leadership, isn't there? Lots on the news about leaders making decisions, right decisions. So I guess if we can help people stay focused and be able to do their job without having too much angst, they understand how they operate, how they best operate, how they interact with others, that's going to help alleviate some of the pressures. Not going to say it's going to take away everything, but if for example, they can be a better time manager and look after how they prioritise, it might just help them go through a day without too much angst and, maybe get more out of their working day. And if the things like, if they can understand how to build rapport with others, they can get results with others quicker. It might take time rather than having to worry about having that difficult conversation with that individual, which I guess with anybody, that could play on people's mind, couldn't they? Having to interact with difficult colleagues. If they can find ways of maybe making the magic happen and people can actually work better without getting too personal, because the tool is very good at explaining how you work with your opposite and how you work with people very much like yourself. So I think having those insights will definitely help people cope with the pressure. I guess we have 2 different journeys across the 2 different organisations. So if I can start with Tameside first. So back in 2017, the organisation bought the tool, and there was a big cohort of us across service transformation and HR who were trained to be facilitators. And we soon, after training, put those into practice and used it on teams. But more recently, we've sort of homed in the tool and we've used it as part of our Aspire Leadership Development Programme, which is a 5-day programme. And day 2 is devoted to leading yourself. And we use the Lumina Spark tool to help unpick that, to give insight into self, so that we can show leaders about their own communication style, their leadership style, and having that insight really helps them manage their teams and go on to grow, I suppose. So that's Tameside, but we also use it for team development at Tameside. So if there's a team that's struggling with some issues of not getting on or there's some conflict in the team, we use that tool to help us with interventions. Over at Stockport, where it's a newer tool because they used to use a different tool prior. So we've introduced that probably only in the last 12 months, to be fair, but we tend to use that for team development because they don't have an equivalent Aspire programme. So we use it in a different number of ways. We use it to help people with coaching sessions as well. You can take the tool into coaching. That day is quite a full-on day because, as you can appreciate, they get sent the link before they join the day too. We share with them a snippet of their profile, which is the inner spark, probably about 3 or 4 pages, so they get an idea. They come to our day, facilitated day, with having probably not much knowledge of the tool, and we literally, it's like peeling an onion and the layers. So we start from the colour cards, we do that exercise, we expose them to the 4 colours. Then we do the stepping exercise and we expose them to the 8 aspects so they get a good understanding of that, some general discussion. And then we're really focusing on the 24 qualities and the traits and what that means for them. So that's probably quite a lot of unpacking in the morning. I think just before sort of lunchtime, we just about touched upon the 3 personas, so they understand what they mean. So the everyday, the underlying, and the overextended. And then they're given their portrait, which is, 30 pages long for them to read. And then we do a number of different exercises in the afternoon to really expose the two so they can understand what a different colour means. And then we obviously do building rapport and speed reading. So as you can appreciate, it's a full-on day. It's a lot of things in that day. Some people grasp it quicker than others, yeah. But there's always an opportunity to come back and unpack if they need that. Well, I've heard of examples where, people have actually been exposed to the tool, whether it's on our Aspire programme or they've actually used it in our team development session, team building, and they really go back to it because they got to live that tool, haven't they? There's no point in just coming to us for a day or half a day and then be exposed to it and put it back on the shelf. So I do know of teams who talk about it, and they, might be a bit of banter in the office. Like, what sort of day are you having today? Are you a red day or are you a blue day? And I guess because people, as we expose more and more people through this tool, we must have seen about 150 odd people through leaders through this tool. They're getting an idea when someone is overextended. They can read, they can understand why that person might be quiet, and they might be a bit under pressure. They're facing a situation that they're not normally being exposed to. So as a leader, you can be more sympathetic to that individual. And maybe you might tailor-make your communication style and be more inclusive. Well, when the manager comes and says, I've got particular issues with the team, we'll have a diagnostic conversation. We'll explore really what's going on, what is the problem at the heart of the issue. And then we'll think, as an OD practitioner, we'll say, well, actually, that would lend itself to a Lumina session. So we will then, offer that and facilitate the session so they can understand. So for me, I tend to like to use that tool if there's communication issues, or if, for example, a team is experiencing sort of like maybe behaviour that may not lend itself to being a constructive, cohesive team because they're under pressure and they're not able to recognise that they've been in an overextended state. Because the tool's very good at sort of pointing out what your behaviour is like when you're in an overextended state, and then what can you do to call on some of the other traits to help you get out of that situation. So I tend to do it that way. I think a lot of times when they're reading it, they're not surprised. Because at the end of the day, I said, you own this portrait because you've answered the questions. So there's not been many situations where people don't believe what they're reading in the portrait. So it's a surprise in terms of how spot on it is to be exact, really. So people are very like, oh wow, that is really me, explained in a 30-page document. No, and they like the colour. They like seeing the colours and how wide each of the stems are on the mandala. Oh, absolutely, lots of them. So when we unpack it with the 24 qualities and we're looking at the everyday underlying and the overextended, there are some surprises for individuals because there are certain traits where they don't dial it up and they don't even know they had it, their strength, and they're not using that strength to help them get out of maybe a situation. So that's always a really good eye-opener, that page, when you can see it all together, all stacked together, all the 3 personas. I guess it comes down to, obviously, they have a better insight to themselves, yeah. Not often do we get the opportunity to reflect and think about ourselves. It's like holding that mirror up, isn't it? To really get an understanding. For lots of our delegates on programme, there's lots of revelations for them that they may not have known about, yeah. And then maybe that, to give them that confidence that they can actually change and work on some of the traits that they may not be using often, and that may serve them well. So it's having the confidence, having an insight, having the ability to maybe test out and understand, actually, if I go into this meeting in a different way, if I prepare differently, because I know, you know, the person I'm going to speak to is more of a red and they like the detail and like you to go straight to the matter, have an agenda, it could make things a lot easier. So, you know, you're able to influence people without having to, you know, make it a harder piece of work. And if you can influence people more quickly, you're going to save time. So I guess at the end of the day, it's about communication, improving that, your leadership style so you can get the best out of others, having that confidence and the just ability to just make work a bit easier, to build rapport with others and then get the best out of others. So for the self, it's insight. For teams, is actually you're going to be a better leader and get the best out of them. And for the organisation, we can be more productive, high-performing teams. And that's a summary, I guess. I got my training in 2017. So soon after training, I put it into practice because one of those tools, if you don't pick it up, it takes you a while to get back into it, yeah. And obviously with this new role, I've been exposed to the tool much more. So I have done sessions on the Aspire programme and I've obviously used it for team building sessions. So and also I sort of oversee the practitioners that we've got. We've got quite a number of practitioners. Obviously that changes with people leaving the organisation. But my role is to make sure that those practitioners all move up their rank. So they get the training, they do some observation, they do some co-facilitation, and then they become proficient so that we've got a really good, you know, cohort of people that we can rely on. And as the demand comes in, we want to spread the opportunities so that everyone gets a chance. It's not just for a few individuals. That's really important for us.